you got $1 to $5 million in net worth and you want to get to 20, like the only way to do it is this. It's not sexy like your software app that's unprofitable, but my company is 10 times larger than yours. And I remember all my business school professors were like, buy a small business? That is so dumb. Like, Walker, you are so stupid. I don't necessarily have to do anything to earn what I want. I'm just going to go get it. At the beginning of my career, bank leverage was the leverage that I used in order to get a 7-figure net worth. Now, if you open the textbook of how do I de-risk the answer is diversification. You want to make any real money, the only way to do it is to own your own company, period.
So cool, dude. I'm pumped to do this. You and I know each other well, so we're going to have a fun chat. So I just gave background. What's that?
How did we meet, Aram?
We met on a deal, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So it's 2018, you're a searcher. You bump into Buy Then Build. You read it.
Yeah.
I'm a broker on a deal.
Yeah, exactly. So we did a deal together, and the deal was a hell of a deal because we get under LOI. COVID, I forgot if COVID was happening. I think it was something happened where I was like, hey guys, COVID's happening and your clients are retail brick and mortar stores.
That's right.
Something's got to give. And to their credit, they actually, which is a sign of a great business, which I appreciate it. Talk about a battle tested business. They stood strong and were like, well, this is the price. And so that was the first delay. And then we got through that delay. And we saw actually quite the V-shaped kind of recovery on the stuff after kind of those first lockdowns, which was the first thing. And then the second thing, I got sued, on the,
right.
Yeah, I got my first real lawsuit, throughout that time, which killed the deal for 3 weeks. I know, the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So that set us back 3 weeks. Thankfully, I had not done anything, so the guy let me off really fast. I was part of a group, and then we got it done. And then so since then, fast forward now, have followed you, seen you evolve. Now we're working together, and I'm helping power what the big swing you're taking now, which is really exciting. And so tell us hey, give us your background intro, just tell us who you are, and all that stuff.
Well, it's one of those where I started buying businesses back in 2006, right? I got the idea to write this, in 2002, 2003, I was really looking at buying small businesses rather than, going corporate or starting a business from scratch. And I couldn't figure out why everyone thought it was so small time thinking. I mean, other than the sort of obvious engineering of it, but at the time it was kind of defining all real estate investing as ground up construction and just ignoring the fact that there's this whole industry around value add, which is actually a better business model, right? So I had this idea and I thought about writing the book at that time so that I could figure out how to do it. And I remember all my business school professors were like, buy a small business? That is so dumb. Walker, you are so stupid. And I'm like, okay, it just seems like everyone around St. Louis that's rich, owns a small business. This isn't Silicon Valley, Right. So, but at the time I was like, if I write a book, I was a literature undergrad and grad school. So I was like, if I'm going to write a book, I wanted to define an industry, not be I'm the intern interviewing people that have built it,
right.
So I was like, I'm just going to go do it. And maybe one day, whatever. Didn't think all that much about it, other than I thought it was a great idea and the book needed to be written. But what happened was, 10 years later, I'd acquired 7 companies outright and had sold maybe 2 of them at that time. And all my entrepreneur friends would introduce me to other entrepreneurs as hey, this is Walker. He buys and sells companies, which sounds pretty baller. They were missing the whole thing, which was no. I own all my equity. I can do this with a bank loan. It's not sexy like your software app that's unprofitable, but my company is 10 times larger than yours. And so it's like I was playing Moneyball, right, with
Yeah.
small business acquisition. So it was, Aram, it was actually kind of my desire was to expand what it meant to be an entrepreneur, expand
Yeah.
the definition of entrepreneurship, but really I just wanted to explain to other entrepreneurs what I was doing because I felt like there was, if not a better way, a different way, and probably
Yeah.
a better way for most people, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote Buy Then Build, which it's at the risk of sounding egotistical, I'll just say the facts. It's one of the best-selling business books of all time. And so it's sort of really defined the industry in the point of view of acquiring small businesses as an actual entrepreneurial activity and how to think about it, right? And so that's what I'm known for. I then started Acquisition Lab, where we helped a number of vetted people who wanted to buy an existing company, buy businesses, and ran that for 5 years. I'm still involved. Our searchers have acquired $1 billion in small business acquisitions. Recently merged it with Shareholder Ventures, which I'm happy to go into. But over the last 16 months, Aram, things have really changed. And a lot of our community have started investing in deals. And so just over the last 16 months, I've raised over $31 million across like 7 or 8 deals. And so we're starting to syndicate and build funds around things so that we can all go get rich together as sort of like the first like community office, like sort of a family office style group.
Okay, so by the time you wrote the book, and I have read it half a dozen times at this point, I mean, you had plenty. There was a lot of battle test in there already.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So like you'd bought, I think it was half a dozen businesses by that point.
7, yeah.
Yeah, bought and sold some. But take us back to like the first one. What fascinates me, and dude, like I'm terrible at being under pressure and like taking pain and like all this stuff, but like I do it anyway, which this is like the thing that fascinates me. But like, what makes you, I think, like what made you want to be like take the leap into doing like that first business? Because I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. Is making that first like entrepreneurial leap. And then I think like kind of the science and the art and the beauty is figuring out how we can get a lot of folks either transitioning into buying businesses or, investing, which might be a nice kind of middle ground. But I'd love to kind of, hear about like what made you do it, what made you like have the guts to do it and all that stuff, and maybe some origin story stuff.
If you look at Buy Then Build, when you look at the dedication, it's to Bob Deibel, your grandfather's entrepreneur, right? And Bob Deibel was my grandfather, and they didn't use that word. They didn't use the word entrepreneur. It was like small business owner,
Yeah.
And just to back up, it's like it's important to understand that my dad owned his own small business. Both of his brothers own their own small business. Both of my grandfathers own their own small business, right? Like so like, and then my mom's side of the family was this sort of like I'd say like artistic, academic, sort of vibe, right? So I had this like economics, small business operation on the one side from my dad's family, and on my mom's side was sort of like the arts and being smart about it. So and I was kind of in the middle, but it was like Bob was interesting. He would take me out to breakfast like pretty routinely growing up, right? And once a month he would we'd go out for eggs or pancakes or whatever, and he would like lecture me, right? And I'm in like grade school, and he's saying to me like, "Look, the only way you can make any real money is if you own your own small business." Like he would hammering this.
Yeah. And I tell my 18-month-old this now.
He's ahead.
Yeah.
So I think it's like you can't like in retrospect, it didn't seem like such a big deal at the time. Like all of us in grade school have our like experiences or whatever. But now looking back, I'm like, well, Jesus, that was like instrumental, and I didn't even understand it, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened, Aram, was, when I was around, like 9, 10, 11, maybe 12, my grandfather and my uncle bought a company. And they bought a company in Southern Illinois. And after breakfast one day, we went over there. And it was my dad, my grandfather, and myself. We went over and we looked at it. And I remember looking at this building, and I turned and asked my dad, and I said, well, how did they find this? And he was like, oh, if you want to buy a business, you call a business broker. This is like the 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
And I was looking at this building of this company they bought, and I didn't know what was more baller. The fact that like my grandfather had bought this company, or that there was some business broker that sold it to him that clearly made a lot of money. And in my head at that moment, right. So I was like, in that moment, I knew that I wanted to do both. Right. I was like, I want to learn how to do these transactions, and I want to own one or whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, along the way, you sort of develop like the Warren Buffett, mentality, and you're like, I'm not owning all of them,
Yeah.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what planted the seed. Now, what happened was, after I finished my MBA, so I started a company. Let me pause there. Questions?
Yeah. No, spot on. Okay. Great. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So like, when I finished my MBA, like, so we were starting this business in grad school, and we had like, when you go see a movie, it's in real 3D. So this was maybe 8 years before that came out, and we had that same technology for point of purchase advertising. And we were finalists in a business plan competition. We had customers lining up, we had investors lining up, and ultimately we didn't own the technology. And so they ultimately said some version of, listen, we're not really going to bank anymore on, these, 20-year-old kids in St. Louis. We're going to go work with James Cameron and make Avatar. So like you're out. And our whole startup just like disintegrated in a day. And I hadn't been looking for a job, Aram. So I was in this problem where, I was one of 2 kids coming out of a ranked MBA program that didn't have a job lined up. Right.
Yeah.
And if you know those kids, it's the ones that like it's perceived that they're the ones that like everyone looked at and didn't choose. But I didn't do a single interview because I didn't care. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I started looking for a small business. And so I started my search really in spring of 2004. And this was really when I really started to understand the space, like the opacity and the fragmentation and the subjective valuations, and like trying to meet business brokers and like networking with people that had done it, and, looking at every listing and finding all the places and like reading anything I possibly could on the space. And like everything was so bad and different. And then you would, interview these people. And so I came up with this program of like, okay, well, I need to do this like every single day. And I was like this first and only searcher I'd ever known. And there was no word for it. At the time I was dating Colleen, who's now my wife, and her parents were just like, "What? Like,
classic?
What is this?" They were very confused, and because I was unemployed, is what I was.
Yeah.
That was the word for searcher.
Yeah. Right. Startup founder now. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, long story short, I don't lead with this because I don't want it to undermine everything that has happened in my life. But the truth is like, you look at like, Bill Gates, and it's like the fact that he started IBM is sort of like a recipe of all of the things of his environment, right? And it's like the number of he had access to computers.
Totally.
He was in the right place, like all these types of things. And I realized shortly after I bought my first company that like there is this profile of individual that has access to buying small companies. And there, of course, there was like this little searcher movement, and there were some people that were kind of alternative enough to figure it out. But it's oldest sons of people that own small businesses, right? So I've been looking for a business for about 9 months, and I could no longer not have a job. So I took a corporate job, I took one in outside sales because I knew I could get the full job done by noon and continue my search in the afternoon, which I did. And I looked, I mean, Aram, you look at all these things, like, someone tried to sell me like a pet cemetery at one point. I looked at laundromat and I couldn't get myself to do it. I'm like, this isn't being an entrepreneur. Like owning a laundromat is not, what we do. And so, ultimately, my dad said, look, let's have lunch. And we sat down. He said, why don't you come work at the company, the printing company? And I said, well, why would I do that? And he said, well, let's just see if you show up first. And he stood up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like show up on time or whatever. So I worked at the company and let's see. It was during that time that I really started to research what was going on in the space. Okay. And I started to I was trying to figure out, like, am I really going to buy this or not? Right. And we weren't having that conversation. And I was looking at the industry, and what I saw was, the evolution of digital printing was enabling all of this short run book production to come into fruition for the first time in history. And I was like, this is going to be the biggest transformation in the printing industry since Gutenberg. No kidding. And this industry is so fragmented, right, that this is actually going to be the greatest time for an increase in revenue in a long time because of the changing landscape. Because everyone that owned printing companies was in their 60s or older. And, they were gray-haired fat cats whose kids were out of college. They all drove Lexuses around and just complained that it wasn't the 1990s anymore, which actually was the most profitable decade in the printing industry in all of history. Okay? So this was like the generation that just like lived through the most profitable, decade of that. So they all had all this money. None of them were reinvesting into the business because there was kind of a pullback. And I was like, this is kind of an interesting time. So he left town for a number of months, which I remember being weird. And I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. I actually took a pay cut to go work for my dad. And I was like, okay, when he comes back, I'm just going to tell him, like, look, I'm either buying this company or I'm moving on. Cause like, I don't know what I'm doing here, And so he came back, and I'll never forget. He walked past my office, and I didn't know he was coming back, and he didn't look at me. And then he went to his office and he called my phone, and I was like, hey, and he goes, come down to my office. And I was like, okay. And I came down. He was like, all right, while I was out of town, I started working on a plan to sell you the company. And I was like, okay, great. Cause like, if this wasn't happening today, like I'm out of here. I have to figure this out, So, so then in December of 2006, we ended up executing the transaction. And Aram, you're talking about the first transaction, how hard it is. What I'm going to tell you was I was already on the board. I was already at the company. Like I was already integrated. Through college, I'd worked at different places in this small business. So everyone knew me. I wasn't like a stranger.
Sure.
And, so the only thing I had to worry about really was like nepotism, like being
totally
one incapable of doing it. But, I had the degree, and I had like some blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so we did that transaction, and it went down like this. We got a third-party valuation, okay? I went to a bank, and I took out a loan for probably 10 times my net worth, and I wrote a check to my dad. And then we made the announcement, and he walked out the door and didn't come back.
Wow. Just
so
classic.
Just like, okay.
No rollover, just bought the whole thing.
Right. And I don't want to go too much into the details because I don't want to. I don't want him to think that I'm, bitter, because I'm not. I'm thankful.
Sure.
Great opportunity. But it was one of these. The way that it was structured was he basically got paid twice for the transaction.
Yeah. As he should. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. He basically got paid twice. But ultimately, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it was sort of like this little bridge, right?
Yeah.
And then just to punctuate it at the end, when I ultimately sold the company 7 years after I bought it to an acquisition target, and then I took 100% of those proceeds and went out and got 5 more SBA loans and just like maxed everything out and rolled all of the profits from that transaction. So that that was when I felt like I was really doing it, because it was like, okay, I need these people, and right.
Yeah.
So there you go. That was the first one.
That's a great kind of jump off point because I bought my first business for like a few $1,000,000. And it was great. I read Merchants of Debt in 1978. Henry Kravis bought Houday Industries in Florida for like, it was like a take private, like tons and tons. It was, I don't forget, it was like 100 million, but it was like a real deal in 1978. He did that on his own. I was reading that book every morning to stay pumped up. So I started chasing like mega deals. So when I got the first one done, I got the bug and just became obsessed with doing deals, winning, building, etc. Talk to me about your experience with that.
Yeah, I think that ultimately, I think that I go slower than most people, right? Right? Like I think a lot of people kind of, I don't want to use the word entitlement. That's wrong. It's just sort of like, I don't necessarily have to do anything to earn what I want. I'm just going to go get it, right? And there's that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And I don't shame that. I think it's awesome and beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's also like when I'm in a situation and I'm next to somebody, whoever I'm up against on whatever goal I'm going for, I always know that I'm the better candidate to win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
I'm not necessarily trying to sabotage what's happening. Right?
Yeah.
It's just sort of like,
Yeah.
I always try to earn it first. And maybe that's the Midwestern part of me, and I think that even when I was running the printing company, I couldn't grow it fast enough to satisfy myself. Right. And there was a lot of reasons for that. It was the Great Recession was on, like, it was the first Amazon attack was against, we were a book printer, right? So it was all against, books and all this stuff. And the iPad was coming out and like, it was just a really hard time. And you couldn't really grow a business that was mature, if not declining. Right. And there was, bookstores were going out of business, right? Like newspapers were going under, like 36 printing companies a week were going out of business. It was a really hard time when I owned that company. And trying to grow it was just ridiculous. And so no matter how much time I spent, I couldn't continue to grow it. And I started looking at acquisition kind of as a result of like, how do we grow faster, right?
Yeah.
It started with like I was trying to recruit and steal other salespeople from other printing companies to try to steal their books of business, right? That doesn't work, I learned. And so, but if you acquire the business, you get the brand and the person, and people like that, right? So I started going that way. But all of the potential acquisitions were looking like falling knives. So I didn't do it. Okay. Where I'm going with this was, after work, I would, get my road bike and just start crushing, right? Like I started racing road bikes during that time because it was like, there wasn't enough work to do. And I couldn't, and I couldn't go I couldn't go buy another company at that time either. So I was like running this one. Right. And it was hard. And so I ended up winning state champion in 2010.
Wow.
Just because, just like in my free time, because if your question is about like when did you get this drive or whatever, I was sort of like, okay, look, I'm all about deferred gratification because I know the longer you defer it, the bigger the mountain is, right? And this is something that, I don't know. It's just I've learned through either my financial training as a stockbroker and compounded interest and like, just like if I take the dollar today, then I don't get the $10 tomorrow, like in everything, right? So, learning to write, a book is just like this bullheaded, like pushing. Writing a book is so hard because it's one word after the other for like 80,000 words in a way that like tries to explain something in a very linear way, right? So that book, I started over from scratch like 6 times, trying to write it. And then, that's like an endurance thing, right? I wrote it between 4 a.m. and 7 in the morning. Riding bikes is an endurance game. It's like I need to outride everybody in the bitter cold of winter, right? And so it's like I always know that if you earn it in the off hours, you get it in the on hours. And so I had this idea of like, okay, how do I become like the Warren Buffett? Like, how do I own the smallest private equity firm that no one's ever heard of, but like I own the whole thing, right? And that was kind of my dream back there around that, like, 2006 to 2013 time. Like that was the vision that I was creating at that time.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Um,
How about you? You have no off button, Aram.
yeah, I mean, similar, when you were talking there, I believe in myself and feel like if you can outwork everyone and be better than everyone and you'll win. I've won mid-market auctions against 400 private equity firms as a fundless sponsor. Um, I've I've taken down as a fundless sponsor. Yeah.
You and I were in a deal where
Yeah, totally.
you were basically under LOI, effectively as
Yeah,
LOI,
effectively. Yeah,
with
yeah.
$180 million business.
Yeah. No, and Walker, what blew my mind about that?
Mm.
You know what blew my mind about that?
What?
Is that you were willing to bet on me, bro.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Like you were willing to bet. I was like, how did this guy like bet on me for this? Like I must be doing something right. And I think I was like, we all do our best, and that was my shot. And I learned the hard way that you can't land 12 planes at once. Go land one.
Right.
So gosh, I think if we tried that over again, we might have won. But yeah, no, it was a great one. No, totally agree. And that's what and now I'm as a 42-year-old entrepreneur building stuff, buying stuff, with a new kid, which is like a huge thing for me. Navigating that, especially now with a family, is like much harder. Even like when you go home at 5 p.m. and you're like out like building an empire, then you come home and it's like, oh, take the trash out. And you're like, oh my God, like, how do I do this? That stuff. Yeah. And that's like and that's the contention in my life, as you can imagine. But yeah, I mean, even that, so that's a thread I actually really like, also exploring is like, what do you do to turn off your button? Like, I feel like you have, yeah, like we chat on weekends, and like, I think like your wife is like pretty cool, cause just by like, yeah, like by the amount of like weekend chatter we have, I'm like sneaking it. I feel like you're not sneaking it as much, but I think your kids are older than mine too. But yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, like just to go totally personal. I mean, my wife is kind of a single parent.
Wow.
I work all the time. I woke around today. I woke up at 1 a.m. I went to bed at 9. Yeah. I went to bed at 10 because my youngest daughter was reading me books, which was so sweet, but I couldn't keep my eyes open. I fell asleep, and then I woke up at 1 a.m. I did not go back to sleep.
Wow.
I'm still outlining, my next book. I know like there's just all these things on my head. And so I bought a Remarkable tablet with a backlit screen, like an e-reader. So it's not like a screen. It's like you can write
just got it
in the dark. Yeah. Is it the show? It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So I got one of those because I get up in the middle of the night and I just like, I can't turn it off. And I don't know. Like when I read the 4-Hour Work Week, I was like, how do I get 20 of these things? Right.
Yeah. I
can do more. And of course, we all know Tim Ferriss. Like, I don't know anyone that works harder than Tim Ferriss. Like that guy is always, working.
Yeah.
He wrote 4-Hour Work Week. Like he's not. Sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, trying to figure out like, how do you work smarter, but how do you, I've learned, and I think you've learned this as well, as what I suspect, is that like if you don't have a sense of urgency, you don't get it done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it's also, there's so many goals that I have that it's just kind of like, trying to climb the next mountain is always one of those things. You have to have that sense of urgency, and if you don't have the sense of urgency, it's not going to happen. Yep. Also, if you don't have the thing about endurance and enduring sports is that that you can pedal longer than everybody else. You know that you can, I'm not saying this is healthy, but like you can sleep less than everybody else. You can show up at the office earlier. Like, look, Grant Cardone, think what you want. Like he's hilarious to me. Like I said, there was an interview that he did with my friend Brad, and he was like, look, he was like, you want to take the weekend off? You want to take Saturday off and be with your family? Great. I'm going to take market share. You want to go to church on Sunday? Fine. You go to church. I'm going to take market share. I'll make it up to God when I'm dead.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah.
But I think that by doing the things that most people won't do is what ends up getting you exceptional results, right? So
100%.
So you and I are working together. Look, at the beginning of my career, okay, bank leverage was the leverage that I used in order to get a 7-figure network. Like that's all I did was I went out and I bought 7-figure businesses with bank loans, and then I paid them off and did my best to grow the businesses, and then I've sold them or kept them or whatever. That's what I did, right? And so having that experience of bridging that first million is so hard, right? And then once you get it, then it starts to get easier, right? It just starts to get easier as long as you don't lose money, right? Where am I going? So ultimately, the first leverage for me was bank debt, and bank debt led me to be able to access people leverage, right? Which is employees. So now I'm buying teams of people with the company, and then I was like, okay, great. Now we have a whole machine of people and stuff. The new leverage is audience. And, I'm not saying anything to blow anyone's mind other than, can I tell the story? Can I tell the story about when you learned about what you're doing at 150 Media? I know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened was, I was running, we're doing a buy then build, style strategy in cash flowing oil wells right now. Okay. This one will close at the end of the year, but the point is that, at the time we had 700 cash flowing oil wells under LOI. And so I was running an ad just to see what happens, do accredited investors come in, or how does this work? And we're running this ad, and Aram, I'm in Vero Beach, Florida, with my family on spring break. And you write,
oh no way,
and you say,
love Vero Beach.
And you sent me a text message, and it was like, hey Walker, listen, I'm looking at your ad, and just so you know, I started this newsletter, 8-9 months ago. I've got 375,000 subs, and people are that are running ads that are doing what you're doing are running ads, and if you want to run an ad, no pressure, bro, but I'll give you premier status, and I'll run it longer, and I'll give you a discount, and you're just look, I mean, you're doing what my customers do, and I'll hook you up if you're interested, but no pressure.
Yep.
And my response was, I'll run an ad. More importantly, Aram, how the hell could you get 375,000 subs on your newsletters in 9 months?
Yeah.
And then you wrote back, I'll tell you, do you have a minute? I call. I'm on spring break with my family. I'm on the cell phone on the beach, and I call you and tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
And you were like, remember my last job, with, BizNow, and when it did the thing, and I was like, right. And so you had a proprietary secret method of growing, email lists in a way that I was really trying to hack and figure out, right? And so when you start to unpack a lot of the influencer business model, it's really I'm a very reluctant influencer, and I've just finally leaned into it and been like, look, I'm a micro influencer. Just go own it. Then you're being a bad.
Go all in, yeah.
You're a micro.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm starting to get more active. But the point is if you look at their model, it's all about, social. And then every 6 weeks, it's hey, yo, give me your email address. Because they're just trying to roll everyone into the email, right? Because that's when you can get really, really direct. So by going directly to the newsletter and being able to grow a newsletter at that quick of a rate is actually the little thing that makes the big difference in having an impact with potential customers and reach. And you own it at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Email list. It's not on someone else's platform.
Yeah.
So obviously I came to you and I said, Ram, will you help me? Right? Will you help me do what you're doing? And ultimately that became Stack Weekly. Okay. And, we just crossed, I mean, we're 6 months in, we just crossed like 150,000 subs. Here's where I'm going with all of this is that, writing that newsletter has almost become like a full-time job for me. Right. And we've got 5 people working this newsletter every week. And it lands on my desk, usually on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. And I usually end up writing it on the weekends because it's like, it's like 25.
It's a meaty thing. Yeah.
Kind of major. And so it's like, I feel like I'm writing a half a book chapter every single week at this point. And, it's kind of like, well, why are you working the weekends? And it's like, because this is the thing that I'm doing to expand the reach when I'm not working during the week. Like, no one's paying me to write the Stack Weekly. In fact, it's the opposite. Like, I'm paying people, paying somebody. Like, it's like I'm making major investments to try to like get that thing to be the largest accredited investor newsletter in the world. And I mean, we're on track. So,
oh, heck yeah.
It's like, like that's cool to me. And that's why you don't turn off, because you're like, what's the next idea? How do I write this? That's not landing. How do I make it, make it valuable? Right?
Well, it's not work. Like, it's not work. That's like another thing. I feel like a lot of people don't empathize with, well, one, they don't appreciate with what being like the owner entrepreneur is. Like, if I don't work, and like I try to tell my my wonderful family this, I'm like, listen, if I actually don't work for 3 hours Saturday and Sunday, the business won't move on Monday. Like if I don't, like I'm just trying to stay afloat. So if I don't do it, but at the same time, it's not actually work when you're building something like that's just so big and wonderful. That's basically
early wins. You got to be getting those early. Otherwise, it just feels like so much like a grind, So working.
That's basically. Oh, heck yeah! No, I appreciate that. And then so one thing I struggle with is like you and I are having, like, you and I understand each other. We have team members. Communicating this to family members, colleagues, employees, partners. This is like the hardest problem known to man. It's like, how could you just stop working at 5 p.m.? I just don't get it. Like, there's 20 things to do, but like, I understand, you just work for the company. It's not yours, even though I try to paint like a big, juicy vision to try and incentivize. Any commentary on
what was your first job out of college, Aram? What did you study in college?
I studied finance. Got super lucky. I was terrible at school. I like hacked my way into the business school at Maryland. And didn't finish. And then, Elliot Bisnow, my old tennis buddy, was at Wisconsin playing tennis. And he's like, hey dude, my dad's starting this thing. I'm leaving school to do this. And I remember I was at College Park, like on the couch, not going to class, doing something. I was like my senior year.
Smoking a bong? Were you smoking?
Oh, totally. Oh, 100%. I left that part out. I'm glad you got it out of me. And then I was like, heck yeah, let's go. And so I went to their house where they worked. It was him and his dad. And it was one newsletter. He would send this like newsletter out. Actually, 3. It became like a vertical one, which is essentially what I'm rinse repeating now. But yeah, I was sales guy number 1 outside of Elliot at BizNow Media. This was like 2006. So I was sales guy. And then fast forward 7 years later, we were 80 people at one point, 15 million revenue, 300 events, 200 events, something like that. And the business eventually exited, and I think they've doubled since in size. Pretty just amazing case study. So I learned everything, and I was a disaster first job. But learned on the job, and it was great. So that, that family was super instrumental.
You had that experience right away. Like my first job out of college was I was actually a stockbroker. Like I was a literature
Yeah.
major, and
Yeah.
then I was a stockbroker, which is confusing.
I interned
Like,
at a broker. I interned at a brokerage during college.
well,
So I know that game.
well,
You're cold calling?
yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I worked at Charles Schwab. So like what I loved
Yeah.
about it was I really wanted education. So like I went, I got the Series 7 and 63 and became registered with the SEC and all that. And it was a lot of inbound calls, right?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but then to your point, yes, we were compensated on like how much more AUM can you get out of these people that are like calling in, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And that was all fine, but I mean, almost to your point, like after work at 5 o'clock, um, I would have like my business books and like I'd go to the coffee shop and I would just like write and read and try to get ahead in terms of like whatever it was I was interested in. And my colleagues would go to happy hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I don't get it.
sort of
I
like,
don't get
yeah,
it. Yeah.
they're already just like in the groove, and then when the tech bust happened and they laid off 6,000 people in a single day, it's like they were just like, what? And like had to like go find the next thing,
Yeah.
I mean, so did I. It's not like I didn't.
Sure. Sure.
Like it's just like I had other things kind of cooking, months in advance. So I don't know. I've just always been interested, and I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to
Yeah.
kind of engineer my own
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to get rich, and I wanted to
Amen.
get like
Yeah.
money driven. I'm money driven,
Yeah.
and I'm money driven to this day. Okay, like
Yeah.
still am.
Amen.
And
Me too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's also the just the impact that Buy Then Build has had on the world is like,
It's like
I mean,
crack.
it's
It's
the most
amazing.
rewarding thing that
Yeah,
ever
exactly.
happened.
Yeah.
So I'm really actually looking to do it again in private investing because I think it's an area that hasn't been taken over in that way, and I think that I mean all the empirical evidence suggests that as like the private markets come online, more and more people are going to be expanding what their investments are, and like modern portfolio theory is effectively broken because everything is correlated. Anything publicly available is correlated to anything else publicly available, including Bitcoin is now correlated to the Nasdaq, right? So gold, like it's all going up. It's all going. It's the everything bubble all over again, right? So so I'm looking to do it again, and that just Aram, it just keeps me going. It's just so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and I know what your vision is. When I get asked about like, oh, what makes a good life? What makes happiness? I think it's pretty simple. It's making progress toward a big future goal.
Nice.
And then being fulfilled with,
bigger than
and then smelling the roses on the way. It's not
Yeah.
just that, but it's also being able, like the art of smelling the roses. And that's it.
Yeah.
Any like 2, 3, 4 word mantras, you live by that keep you, kind of mine are, love the fights, love the pain. And that's not as like sadistic as it might come off. It's more like love the pain for me is more like just because on the other side, well, one, it's like basically the more pain you can like easily endure,
Yep.
the more successful you tend to become. And usually we're like in denial, running from pain as just a default thing. But if you actually just like face the nuisances, face the annoying things on the other side of them is progress. So those keep me, going. Do you have any or?
I don't. I wish I had something really smart to say right now, but by then.
Nay. Love it.
No, I really don't. I mean, no, I don't have a mantra like that I repeat or anything like that.
Got it. Cool. All right.
I would just say that like it's sort of like what you're kind of asking is what's the sort of like belief that you have, right? That kind of like drive towards what you're doing, and for me, it's like, I mean, just to get into this, it's always like every single morning I wake up early, and it's like, you look at I'm blanking on the book all of a sudden. What, like the Miracle Morning, right?
Yeah,
Hal Elrod.
Hal Elrod,
yeah. It's like all he wrote a book that's like, it's great, but like, when you whittle it down, it's like, get up early. Like that's get up early, and like, exercise, read, journal, whatever. And I think that there's just something about, spending time in the morning. And I think that it's really easy for most people to wake up, 30 minutes before they need to like be out the door. And I've always woken up way earlier. I get up like 90 minutes before I need to like leave, right? And part of it is just to sort of like reflect, meditate. And, it sounds weird, but like what I do is I decide inside what's going to happen. I don't know how else to say it. I go deep and I decide what's going to happen. And I also, visualization has always played a big role for me. I knew I wanted to buy a business. I knew I wanted to broker deals. I've been inside over 100 deals, 100 transactions. I knew I wanted to start like an education company, and which I've done all of these things now, and even, I knew I wanted to write a book. And so it's like, you just sort of have to like see the thing that doesn't exist, and then you have to decide deep within you that you're going to manifest it. And probably the best compliment I ever got was I got a text message from a friend of mine, Fully Teasdale, maybe about 6 weeks ago, and was like, hey, can we like go on a walk or have coffee or like whatever? And I was like, why, what's up? And and she was like, well, I want to manifest something, and you're a badass manifester. And I was like,
I love it.
And I wrote her back, and I'm like, I am a badass manifester. You're the best fucking manifester. Yes.
I love it.
So
I love it.
I think that what really gives me more satisfaction than anything else, like if you go to like LinkedIn or you look at anything, it's like my title is creator. Right. And it's not like content creator. Like that's not what I'm calling.
I understand.
Right? What I'm going for is like, there's something that
real creation. And
you like make it up, and that's the art. Right. And I had this ceramics teacher in high school that, he didn't like fine art. He didn't necessarily like things that was like on the wall. He was like, we're going to make stuff in here, but it needs to be utilitarian. You can't just make a piece of pottery and like stick it over there with like no use. It has to have a use.
Right.
And so going back to, half of my family being like economics and like business, and the other half being like art and academics, it's like, well, how do you take that art and like make it, economically sustainable? Right.
Yeah. Love that.
Real art.
Yep.
It's like real art. 'Cause it's like, wow, you're like multi-layer making something work here. And that's that at the end of the day, how you have real impact. And that's just creating.
Love that.
That's just what.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. No, it's amazing how actually easy it becomes. If you do it right. Well, maybe not do it right, but actually do it and are able to get through the pain of like that comes along the way to get there. And if you can do that, it actually becomes quite easy, which is fascinating.
I just find that, look, I'm 49 years old, Aram, and this sounds stupid. Like I'm not old enough to say this, but I'm probably older than some people listening to this. But it's like every decade is better than the last one,
Yeah.
Like,
amen. Yeah.
Like your 20s is like, you scratch up, sure, there's like, whatever. There's like 24 people
partying and like,
Well, they become billionaires. Like there's like, there's 24 people that become
the universe.
And like,
right.
Yeah, whatever. Like, and that's fine. And I'm not going to put myself in that category. I'm just going to say that, in your 20s, like you don't have a lot of money. Hopefully you don't have a lot of debt. You're going to scratch your elbows up. You're going to get into the ring, right? And you're in a game that like you don't understand yet, and like you're not allowed to do shit, right?
Yeah,
you have to earn it, right? And so that's kind of your 20s, but it's also like a really fun time because it's like the time when, you're not really dependent on anybody, right? Like you can that's when you learn like, hey, I can do it on my own, and like, oh, okay, look, like, can I earn enough money to like do things to save, right? And in your 20s, you do things that you don't want to do, right? It's like, again, back to this deferred gratification. Like, it's like, I don't really want to do this job. Like, it's a job. And then the first company I bought, the printing company, let me be honest, I did not enjoy working there. Right. I mean, it was not a fast growth company. Like it was just kind of a grind. It was like in an industrial park. I had white collar and blue collar employees. They both needed to respect me for different reasons. So it was like, you had like two different measuring sticks. And so there was a lot to learn, but it was also more deferred gratification. It was like, okay, now I've got to do this. Like when I was in college, like I hated it. Like I felt like it was a complete waste of time, and I knew I had to do it, and I knew I had to get the thing. Business school was a lot of fun, but
Interesting, yeah.
then in 20s you had a series of jobs that aren't necessarily fun. You're just kind of bouncing around and figuring out what you're doing. And then then I bought the printing company, which was a grind. Then things started to get more fun because now it's like choose your own adventure. Like in my 30s, yeah, and you start having exits, and and it's like okay, and then you start brokering deals, and then you start really getting in your 30s, I would say, like you really start getting like specialized knowledge around like a very specific kind of thing because you start going deeper, and people start to figure out like by your 30s, and when you're in grade school, you don't know who's going to be awesome and who's going to be a dud. Like you have no idea, right? And then you fast forward to like your 30s, everyone knows.
Yeah. That's funny.
Who's where? You know what I mean? And so it's like, the wheat has been separated from the chaff. Like you are getting specialized knowledge. You figure out like all these things. Like I don't want to be an interior designer for my house because I don't have time.
Right.
Because I'm worried about financial markets or whatever I'm doing. Right. So you get that specialized knowledge. You've learned to sort of like trade time and value for cash. And, you start to build families at that time and you start to, really create things. And then by the time you get in your 40s, it's like your own personal flywheel is taking off. Right. And so, it's just like one step after another. And I think that, it feels like a grind sometimes, but then it gets fun. It gets really fun. I'm at the point right now, Aram, where like I really wish I was a vampire because I feel like all the hard shit has been figured out. So now I just want to forever.
Amen. Yeah, man. Yeah. No, it's a good spot to be. I feel like I'm getting there too. And I actually want to double click on the thing you said about you bought the printing company, but didn't really like working there. And this is one thing I actually wanted to chat with you about. Because, like, I bought a software company, and I'm not a tech guy. I don't code. I didn't code. It was a very, financial buyer kind of transaction. I could have just as easily bought, 100, I bid on probably 50 things to get that one software company. And so I have this, like, kind of disconnected, dispassionate way of kind of managing that business. Like I kind of think I think of it as my cash cow and, didn't really pour much energy effort into it. Because what I was obsessed with is bigger deals. Let's go and that's where I spent all my time. Now that those didn't go so well, I'm building something from scratch and I love it. I'm like, it's my baby every day. Like love the team, love the product, obsessed with everything. And so one thing I wanted to ask you about was who really should buy a business? And do you think there's somewhere in there that like you should start a business first and like know? Cause like, one huge mistake I made was I left a super high paying job. I took the leap. I was like, I'm leaving biz now. I was running a huge sales team, highest paid guy at the company, and just like took the leap. And boy, and I thought it was going to be easy, entrepreneurship, but it's extremely hard. I was like, oh, these guys do it. They make it look easy, but like little did I know, like Mark was like, not sleeping. He worked on the weekend. I was the asshole that was like, God, this guy's emailing me on Saturday. Like, and And I just didn't get it. So I started my business and totally like the first time founder stuff is real. You make every mistake. And that's what I did. So the first year was a total bust. So now I've been on both sides of the table, and it's hard for me to suggest to someone who hasn't been like the true owner yet to go out and like buy something. Because like you're going to inherit stuff and it's going to be really hard. But so I feel like my perfect scenario is like you've kind of like you've built something first, and then M&A kind of comes second. I mean, I'm biased because that's kind of where I'm at right now. I kind of went from builder to buyer, back to builder. Now I feel like I'm buying right and optimally and best. But anyway, I'll stop there and see what you think about all that.
Yeah, I mean, look, like buy then build is not a I don't like startups story. It's that
totally
is the path. Entrepreneurship is the path.
Amen.
And innovation is equally as important as acquisition, period. Yeah. And if there was a sequel, it would be called Build Then Buy, and it would be buy then build then buy then build then buy and build or buy then build buy. Like it's just together. They work together.
Yeah.
And I started a couple of companies before I bought one. Neither of them worked, and that's like the most common outcome of most startups, especially when you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like it's sort of like saying like I really, really, really want to be a real estate developer. Like I want to develop a whole entire neighborhood from scratch and just like rake it in. Like that's what I want to do, right? Well, you can't necessarily fast forward to being the CEO of Pfizer either. Like you might have to like buy a single family on the weekend and like flip it, right? And then work your way to value add, and then ultimately build a team, and then ultimately like you get your ground up stuff, or you're working at a ground up company and you're an employee learning the trade, and then you go rogue later or whatever. Like so it takes a long time to learn and get to what you're ultimately trying to do. Okay, so like the last offer I made on a company like you was $180 million. That was the offer I made. They didn't accept it, and that's fine. But the point is like, I made my first $1 million. I made my first 7 figures buying and selling and operating small businesses, period. Okay.
Yep.
It's a much more likely outcome.
Totally.
Than starting a business. Okay. Now, if you are buying a company and operating it, or if you were starting a company from scratch and running it, I don't really care which one. Starting a company from scratch is so hard for so many reasons, and the big one is like every single decision you could like bang your head against the wall, because it's literally like I can go right or left and there's no wrong answer, and I don't know what to do, right? You just have to like. And so when you buy a company, a lot of those systems are already in place, a lot of the product market fit is proven, and you're just sort of like running and trying to build that company. What makes either one of them fun has more to do with the skill set that you have, the thing that gets you excited, and the little thing that makes the big difference, in my opinion, Aram, is how fast are you actually able to grow it, right? Yeah. If you buy a company in like a declining industry, which I have done, it's really not a lot of fun, right? It's not isn't the word. So if you buy then build, what I say in there is, and this is misconstrued all the time, what I say in there is this is the most engaged life possible. And when people they read that and they're not of the fabric yet, they think I'm saying this is the most enjoyable life possible.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all I'm saying is that, I think I even said this in the book, when you breathe, your company is breathing. When you are sleeping, your company is sleeping. When you are awake, your company is awake. Like you and your company are the same. And the thing is that like if you and I can put more back effort, more sweat into our company, and it increases in value and impact and all of those things that we care about, we're going to do it every waking moment because we don't know a different way.
Yep.
Okay. And so I don't really care. And like some people out there, they're just, Tucker was my editor, and he would always call it MBA types. MBA types are going to read this book, and MBA types are going to want to buy businesses. And I was like, well, I don't know. But it turns out that's actually
Yeah.
Not that's one of the target markets, one of the core target markets that we have. So it's just people that, whether you're buying a business or starting from scratch, the point is you have to get in the right lane. And so even when you buy a business, yeah, you're CEO on the first day, but you're CEO of a small business. You're not CEO of an empire yet. You've got to build that over time. You're not the CEO of Pfizer the first day you start. You're like the sales guy or whatever, so it's like you have to put the time in and you have to get in there. But to me, it's all about getting in the right lane and then being able to run your, let's just use the word career or whatever, in that lane. And so, for me, it was like, I just always wanted the freedom to work on the things that I wanted to work on. And I wanted to, I do fine with bosses. Like if people give me things to do, it's like, yep, I can put the ball in the hoop. But like, I don't know that I would be that good anymore, bro. Like, I think that at this point in time, last time I had a W2, last time I had a W2 was like 2005. Maybe. Was it 2005.
Wow. No salaries that long?
I haven't had a paycheck. I haven't had a paycheck in that long. You know what I mean? Like, and so I haven't had a paycheck in 20 years.
Wow.
And
so you don't pay yourself W-2s like at your businesses? Oh, interesting.
I mean, okay. I will, but it's not on schedule. It's more like, okay, how much money did we make? And then I talk to my tax strategist, my CPA.
Yeah.
All right, you have to run this much through. So this is the taxes and whatever.
Distribution.
It's
understood. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. So it's more of a tax planning situation. And and the IRS wants you to do certain things so it doesn't look like you're, cheating or whatever. So they just tell me what the number is. And then usually there's a bonus. And then between you and me and everyone else, usually what happens is whatever I take that money after tax and just reinvest it back into the company as like a loan, because it's like, well, like obviously we need cash to live, but it's like, what do you do with your cash? You build companies.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Cool.
So, I ran Acquisition Lab. I started that from scratch. The irony of buy and build is that it ended up being the thing that led to my first successful startup, which was Acquisition Lab. And, I ran that company. Chelsea really runs the company, so I should use that word. I created it. I started it, and she came on for the second cohort, and then she started running all operations, and I was more content and teacher, and then as we grew and more things came on, she was really, really more and more involved with building all that stuff out. So by the end of year 5 or whatever, like in a way, Acquisition Lab is more Chelsea's than mine. Because like I built like 80% of it, and then she was running 20%, and then as it grew, that shifted. It was 50/50,
tends to happen.
Yeah. So I think that this is a long rambling answer. I'm sorry. Just to
wrap
up.
Please,
What I'm trying to say is that like when you own a business, it is the most engaged life possible. And going all the way back to my grandfather, if you want to make any real money, the only way to do it is to own your own company, period. Okay.
Yep.
So it's
100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's in for all my accredited investors out there, it's not the only way. There's a lot of very high paying W-2s with like a lot of golden handcuffs that are
100%.
And there's a different way to do it, which is, you can invest in the private markets and build a portfolio while you have that cash cow situation. Do that for 8 years, build that financial independence, and then go buy your business or whatever it is that you need to do after that. So I think that there's an order depending on where you are in your career. Yeah.
Spot on. Yeah. And then wrapping up, kind of final theme. I wanted to talk about that. So I know your vision for your next chapter. Wealth Stack Weekly is a part of it. Share how you're thinking kind of about private markets investing, what you're doing, what you want to do, and the next your next mountain.
Thanks, Aram. I think that Build Wealth was started almost as an accident. I sent an email about 16 months ago that said like, hey, like, to my list, had about 54,000 people. And I was like, hey, like, I know I'm the buying a businesses guy, but like, surprise, I invest in real estate also. and like this is my A team. I actually have more money with them than anyone else, and I'm investing in this deal. I absolutely love it, and if you are interested, we need another 1.35 million in it. And full disclosure, my team asked me to see if I wanted to raise it, and if you guys come in and fill the round, they're going to move me to the GP side, and I'll make more money than you. But I don't really care. I'm already in it. Mm-hmm. I'm in a number of their deals. I've already sent my money in. And Aram, we raised $4.5 million in 4 hours.
Yeah. I remember that.
And I was
like,
that changed the trajectory of my life. Yeah. So I was like, okay, wait. Oh my God, we need businesses, we need real estate, we need private credit, like we need oil and gas, like we need to build what I call the wealth stack, right? Which is sort of like the capital stack, but how do we allocate across private markets and make it make sense in our brain? Because like in the stock market, you're like, okay, domestic, international, small cap, whatever your portfolio is, and so that's the way that I kind of been going about it, and the way that I'm doing Build Wealth is, I'm going after, deals that I want to invest in, and I'm going to them and I'm saying, listen, I'm not a $50,000 or $100,000 check. We have a community of investors, and we're going to write a check for $5 million in like 6 weeks. So I'm going to come in with my guy, formerly from Goldman Sachs. We are going to do GP level due diligence on this whole situation. Then I'm going to invest my own money in it. I'm going to get paid from my community by taking your money. And I'm also going to take your money and give it to my people, right? So our investors end up getting a better deal than, in certain situations, they can invest directly, in which case they get a better deal by investing through us. In other situations, it's literally my deal, like from my network or whatever, right? So it's really just the things that I'm investing in, but like we're using the leverage of everybody participating. And so I really look at it as like, I'm kind of like the leader of this community of investors. And I like to think of it as, I go in and I say, I want the family office deal, right? And so I get better terms because we're writing bigger checks. And that's a little thing that makes a big difference. So the vision there is, we all have quantifiable goals, I guess. And, we raised, over 30 million last 16 months, and we're just getting started. So, I think that you can, the largest alternative investing newsletter in the world, which we're going to do with you. We're doing it now, and we can also pair it with like really great deals that I'm personally investing in and doing diligence in. Like this is just going to be huge, right? And I'm hopeful that I can be raising, 100 million a year, maybe as early as next year, right? And
love it.
So that's kind of my goal and how I'm thinking about it. Yeah, and Aram, like to pull it full circle. People are like, wait, aren't you a buying businesses guy? Like, why are we investing? Yeah. And what I'm going to tell you is that every single time someone asks me about buying a company, they ask me some question. And lightly veiled inside that question is this question: how do I do this?
Yeah.
But like by reducing risk.
Yeah.
How do I reduce the risk?
And headaches.
And my answer is you really can't reduce the risk on buying a business. Like you just do your best, and then you just make the leap and get in and run like hell and throw up and do it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the game, and you're going to learn, right? And because it's a concentrated, large financial risk all at once, but the way you de-risk it is by finding something that you are good at that you can work on and grow, right? That's how you actually de-risk that. Now, if you open the textbook of like, how do I de-risk the answer is diversification. Okay. Mm-hmm. And after about 12 holdings, 80% of your total benefit of diversifying is realized. After 24, it no longer decreases. Like you've now achieved. So between 12 and 24 holdings is where you're actually getting the benefit of diversification, but also the benefits of the concentration in each one. As a result, rather than jumping out and buying a business, you could do what I'm doing and also invest in private companies, right? And invest in these entrepreneurs that are getting outsized gains by capitalizing on supply and demand imbalance, inside knowledge, edge, whatever it is. Yeah. And by doing that, we're able to expand our reach. And the thing about this, Aram, is that like when you invest like that, it's the first time I've ever seen my money actually work as hard as I do.
Yeah.
So I think that like for sort of like the everyday millionaire,
Yeah.
You know, if you got $1 to $5 million in net worth and you want to get to 20, like the only way to do it is this, because we're not managers and we can't just invest in the stock market for 100 years, waiting for that to compound for that long. We don't have that much time. So we need to get higher results in a diverse portfolio. And that's what we're able to do now.
Dude, amazing. Love that. And, yeah, I mean, this space is exploding. You're a massive part of the explosion. Yeah, where should folks for first time, check you out?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, you know, wealthstackweekly.com is my weekly newsletter. WalkerDeibel.com will get you into my M&A newsletter. I'm active on LinkedIn and a lot of others. So I've got like 200 videos on YouTube. So, you know, I'm around.
Love it, bro. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much, Aram. Great to hang out with you today.